Thanks so much for having me.
I'm really excited to get to chat with you and to introduce you to everyone who's listening. So why don't you tell everyone who's tuning in who you are, what you're all about?
Awesome. Well, hi, everybody. So I'm Amanda Mittman, and I'm a registered dietitian, and I live and work in Western Massachusetts. And I have a business, a private practice called Happy Valley Nutrition. There is another Happy Valley in Pennsylvania, apparently, but this one's in Western Massachusetts. And I am a new group practice owner. So it's myself and my associate dietitian, and we specialize in weight inclusive, fat positive, anti-diet, amazingness, and body image and all that fun stuff. So all the care that we do and the nutrition support is from the Health at Every Size paradigm. And there's not many of us doing that in the Western Mass area. So we're really proud to do it. And it's been a big labor of love, and with your help, Jess, to get me here. But that's kind of how I spend my time. Yeah. And I also work part-time in a doctor's office. So
amazing. And what led you into supervision? Because you've had a lot of changes over the past year. We started working together in July, I think. And so it's been almost 6 months as of us recording this.
Yeah.
Where were you when you said, you know what, I feel like I could use a little bit of help?
Oh my gosh. If you remember, I was so stuck and so confused. And I think the biggest part of it, I was feeling a lot of shame around that. There was a lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of, I should know where I am going, right? You go, I'm not so big on social media, but you go on social media, you get newsletters from other dietitians that are like, they seem like they're killing it and they know exactly where they're going. And I had just finished my master's in functional nutrition. So I just finished that. And I was like, I don't really know what to do now. Should I run groups? Should I hire another dietitian? And I was frozen. Like fight, flight, or freeze. Like I was frozen. I didn't know what to do. And the worst part about it is that I was being so hard on myself. Because, I like to think of myself as a recovering perfectionist, but I'm not sure how recovered I am. But I
totally understand.
Yeah, I know. And I remember I was in a Facebook group of dietitians, and I think you wrote something like, oh, I'm a coach, and I internet stalked you. And the thing that really kind of grabbed me to supervision with you, especially in the type of work that you do, is are you a perfectionist and all that stuff, right? Are you shitting yourself? I'm like, yes, I am. This is what I need. Not necessarily, okay, this is how you run your, this is step 1 and step 2 in terms of the nitty gritty, but who am I? What do I want? Mm-hmm. How do I get there? And how do I give myself compassion around it? It's just like what we do for our clients. I can do it really well for our clients, but to do it on myself was I was in a tough spot. I felt really confused.
Absolutely. And that's what's really important to recognize, is that you can be the best in the field. I don't think there is the best in the field, but you could be a theoretical best in class at doing this for your clients and still need someone in your life to help you see it, to help you make the connections, to help you process it for yourself.
Yes. I think for me, sometimes it's I should know better because I do this for, right? Mm-hmm. There's that, because we're the quote unquote experts, we should know better. Yeah. And obviously that's not true, but that feeling of oh, you should know this. Why are you stuck? Just do something, right? Everyone's just do one action step. I'm I don't know where to go. Yeah. It paralyzed me. And I actually was really, really miserable, for a while. Yeah,
exactly. And I think that a lot of people listening can relate to that perfectionism, that should of well, I can do this for other people. Why am I not able to do this for myself? And there's nothing wrong with you if you're listening and you can relate to this. It's a very human experience, that it is hard to turn that lens inwards and be able to do that without any support, because your clients aren't doing that without any support. They have you.
Right.
So you need that too.
Yeah. Agreed.
So now we're recording this in December. It's going to go out in January. So I'm thinking about goals. I'm thinking about resolutions, and I want to know how you feel about them. And specifically, if you had any in 2021, because you came into my world, I came into your world about halfway through 2021. So did you have goals going into the start of it? How did that line up with where you were feeling a little bit lost and stuck in July, all that good stuff?
I had nothing, like legit nothing. I was flying by the seat of my pants. I mean, as I said, like I got my master's like right before I finished my program, took my exam like right before I met you, like June 27th. And then I think I met with you the next week. Yeah. So like I was basically like, I don't want to say half-assing my business, but I kind of was, because like, 60% of my life was school, and then like 20% business, and then the other, however, I can't do math, but the other percentage was the doctor's office, right? Yeah. So, there was no planning. So I think that was the other bit. I was just like, I was not grounded. And I was like, I have no idea what the heck is going on. What do I want? What do I need? What do I plan? And so that's something, that you and I worked on, especially, and you're like, okay, slow down. Like, what are your values? Like, what do you want? Yes. Like, just like, let's slow this train down. So in 2021, before I met you, the first half, nothing, like I had nothing. Then after we started working together, like the next goal is like, I'm going to hire somebody. Like, well, one is, do you want to hire someone, or do you want to do both? Like, that's the next goal. Decide what you want to do. Okay. Now that I've decided I want to hire someone, the next goal is like, so for me, smaller goals are better than like, I'm, next year, I don't know. I can't think so broadly, that can be really, I just can't get there, I guess. So what's the next thing? Exactly.
And that's also okay. Like, there's no right or wrong way to set goals, unless maybe you set way too many of them and you overwhelm yourself. Yeah. But it sounds like you started 2021 kind of in like survival mode, because your capacity was tapped. And so you couldn't really think about big picture stuff. You were just surviving one day at a time. Right. And so it makes sense that by the time we met in July and you were coming down from this, I don't know if I call it a high, so to speak, of grad school, but you were just decompressing from that. And I'm broken. I don't know if it was a high. And you finally a low, coming up from a low of grad school, and you could kind of breathe again, that you were able to kind of think, but you were so tapped out that you were like, I haven't been focusing on anything really except surviving for 6-7 months, over a year for the entire program. I don't know how long the program itself was. And so it makes sense that you felt like stuck and lost, and you're like, wait, who am I? Because when we are so consumed by something and then it ends, we're like, what now? Exactly. And in my mind, before it ended, I was like, okay, like as soon as it ends, I'm not going to have to do homework or study. And like, this is going to be the time where I'm going to do like all this stuff. And I was like, I'm going to accept more clients, and without a plan. And then like none of that happened, because I was just so exhausted. And I just was like, and then again, like, I'm going to be quite honest, like those feelings, like there was a lot of imposter syndrome going on. Like, why can't you get your shit together? Sorry. Like, why can't you just get it together and just move forward? What is wrong with you? So the fact that there were no goals probably wasn't a good thing. But for me, setting, like, as we set very small goals, like, okay, over the next week, you're going to focus on this, and then this, it pushed me forward to the point where I'm at now in December or January, when this airs, it's going to be a new year. I kind of have an idea of what I want to accomplish, but I'm not quite sure the timing exactly or whatever, but I do have like my big ticket items, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely want to go through those in a little bit. Yeah. But I can totally relate. I just sat down and did like my 2022 planning, and I put down a list, and I took a step back and I was like, I don't really know if I can accomplish all this in 1 year.
Yeah.
That might be a little bit much. Like we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in a short period of time, and then like underestimate what we can do in a longer period of time. And so, you know, you have to sometimes take a step back and be like, I don't know if this is all going to happen right away. Yeah. But it's stuff that I see for myself moving forward. And that is one step further than you were this time last year.
Yeah. And, you know, like I might not ever be the person who like sits with a planner and like plans out my year. Like maybe I will. Like I'm going to hold that hope open that I will become that and learn those skills, because those don't come naturally to me. I know you are like so excellent when it comes to like, you know, you're using your tasks and things like that, and really
brains work differently.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that you really have taught me, because I was like, again, how come I don't have my 2022 planner already filled out and like all my social media posts, like what's wrong with me? And just again, working with someone whose brain works very differently than mine, it's like, nope, like one's not right or wrong. Like, nope. Like, I don't know if I'd be able to do that, or that would take a lot of work for me to learn. And likewise, the way that I probably work, you'd be like, oh yeah, no, that would never work. Right?
Probably give me tons of anxiety.
Totally. Tons. As the other way would give me. So yeah. It's just been really helpful, again, to normalize this experience of it doesn't have to look the way that we think it needs to look.
No, absolutely not. And that's why it's so important to work with someone who's trying to get you to be more of yourself, and not trying to get you to do things like the right way, or the way that they do it, or the way that's worked for them. Right. It's why I'm always hesitant of like, work with me because I did it, so I'm going to teach you how I did it. And it's not that there's not value in that, and that there's not wisdom and insight to be gained from that experience. It's just that what works for one person, and we know this with the nutrition, right, is not going to work for everybody. Right. So I appreciate you sharing that too, because if someone looks at me and sees like I'm very type A, I'm detail oriented, there are lots of dietitians out there that are not detail oriented people. They're big picture people. Right. They're like, I'm going to take things one step at a time and not have everything meticulously planned out. And that works better. Right. And it's important, like you said, that we normalize that.
I think so. Yeah.
So you mentioned that, you know, once we started working together, you started to get some goals going for the year, and it was a lot of figuring out who you were, and it was figuring out what direction you wanted to take with your business. Yeah. Was there anything that we didn't talk about that you really kind of set for yourself as a 2021 goal as we moved through the year?
No, I think, you know, I really just think it was to figure out like, what direction do I want to get pointed in? What am I most passionate about now? Like, why am I basically it was like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I a dietitian? Like, where is my passion? Like, what sort of clients like turn me on? Like, who am I energized after? Right. And I mean, it was, and we had this conversation, like I had been through a 2.5-year program for functional nutrition. Like it was legit, right? It was a lot. And at the end of it, by the time I was over, and I think we had one of our first sessions, and I was like, I don't think I want to do this functional nutrition that much. And that felt really horrible. And you were like, that's okay. Like, that's totally okay. You know, everything happens for a reason. And I use a lot of it. And I'm really grateful for it, but I am not, you know, that is not the focus of my business. And when I realized like, no, I really love doing the body image work. I really love doing, you know, any of the non-diet stuff, like that to me is what, again, like, you know, really turns me on. Just giving the permission to not have to use that, you know, felt really good. You know?
And it doesn't mean that there wasn't a reason for you doing it. To anyone who's listening, I'm going to pull this number out of my head. I'm pretty sure it's episode 14. I did an episode called My Messy Dietitian Journey, where I literally tell you every single like certification and thing that I invested lots of money in and lots of time in that I'm not really using, and how that's okay. And it still shaped who I am. And the same is true for you. with the functional background, you're still using it. It still shapes your perspective and the lens through which you see a client, even if you're not specifically working with them on functional nutrition itself.
Right, exactly. No, it was really helpful to hear that, because I was like, what did I just spend thousands of dollars doing? But it led me to this position at the doctor's office, which I really like, which led to other opportunities. It led, I do believe that we do things for a reason. And gosh, how many things have I signed up for and never completed?
Oh my gosh.
Like trainings and things like that. And it seemed great in the beginning. And I don't know. Yeah.
And that's super normal. I now have student loans because I did a year of grad school and then was like, nah, I'm good. I'm just not gonna finish this. Which is not in line with the like, you're not a quitter mentality that we often grow up with, especially if we are perfectionist. So to be able to say like, no, this served a purpose, but it's not ultimately right for me is a really huge step.
Yep. And that was really big for me to move forward, because I think I was stuck there. And then when, like, again, getting that permission, and then we did a lot of values work, which was, I've never, you kind of like, oh, I know my own values, but you kind of do, you do it with clients, but like to do my own values and to sit and do the work, that really showcased that, like having a group, like hiring somebody else to reach more people, because you keep referring out, because you can only take because I can only take so many, that it really pointed to that. Oh, okay. Like I see, that's what I need to focus on first. The groups will come in 2022. But what you need to do first, or what I need to do first, is work on finding someone.
Yeah. And that values work, it's my favorite work to do. It's something that I do. If not, I'll always look back at them on a yearly basis and do a little bit of a gut check, but I'll really dig into them at least every 2 years. And that's not something that we do very often. It's like, oh, I set my goals 10 years ago, or my values 10 years ago. Like, I'm good. But they change, our lives change, and our priorities change, and being able to look at values from a lot of different angles, which is what we do. We don't just say like, we didn't just create a word that means something to you. Like I value integrity, right? You have to put meaning behind it. You have to look at it from different angles. And so it's always my favorite work to do with dietitians. So I always like to hear when it resonates with them too.
Yeah, it was really important. I was like, what is this? Okay, like I'm down, let's just do it. But it really, and I actually looked at them before we hopped on, just in case you quizzed me, but
that's my style.
Yeah, totally. Oh yeah. You're always throwing things out of left field. But I looked at them and I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Like I am on the, like, yep. That validates that the work that I'm doing does reflect my values, the sense of community, and perseverance was another big word, and all that sort of stuff. It was really helpful.
Awesome. And so clarifying your values helped, it sounds like, kind of clarify your professional identity and your vision a little bit. And that was where you said that you were stuck in the beginning, was that like, you're like, who even am I right now? And so we answered that like existential unraveling question that you were going through. Were there any other things, or was there another role that supervision played in clarifying your goals for 2021, or in the growth that you had over the past year?
I just think having a supervisor, someone who is also a dietitian, who gets it, who has worked with other dietitians from the supervisory capacity, who can be like, you're normal. Yep, this is a thing that dietitians go through. Yep, this is like, we're our own type of breed of professional. That was really the validation again, like the permission, the validation. And it was just so nice to have somebody like every week to show up and be like, I'm a hot mess. Like that, I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, I'm a hot mess, because I think, again, I know that I just try so hard to keep it together, and I present this sort of person who's like, again, got her shit together. And like, that is often not the case. And so it's exhausting sometimes to kind of put that out there. Like we have it all together. And so to have somebody, the same person who you feel safe with week after week, and just be like, I'm struggling. Like, I think I got tearful a couple of times. Like, I
Very
feel
normal.
really messy and confused, and I don't know what to do. And I'm sad and angry. Like, it wasn't therapy, obviously. I have my own therapist, but
Mhm.
it just was another place to talk about, my career and also being a dietitian,
Yeah.
because
And
hard.
it is. And that's
Yeah.
a really important point too, that distinction between therapy and supervision. I am constantly reflecting on that too.
Yep.
And what it really boils down to, and I've had dietitians who have been in therapy prior to seeing me, and their therapist is like, you need to find a dietitian to talk about some of this stuff with,
Mhm.
right? Because there are some things that you really have to be in the profession to understand and to help validate and to help unpack. And so a lot of times that combination of therapy and supervision is where you do some really, really deep work, because we can bring up some things and then you can go to your therapist and be like, we need to talk about this. Like,
Yes.
can we unpack this a little bit?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what happened. And it was great because, like, I think we were talking about fear, and I'm like, ooh, that's a great one to let's unpack some fear. Where does
Yep.
that come from? Like, and
Mhm.
it did augment the work that we did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I always appreciate that. I'm a huge proponent of therapy, and going that
Yeah.
deeper level.
Yeah.
And I love how the two just interplay with each other.
Yeah, for sure.
So now we're looking towards 2022, and you
Yep.
said you don't necessarily have like your roadmap for the whole year,
Nope.
but you have some thoughts. So what are
Yep.
those thoughts for what 2022 could look like?
So my thoughts for 2022, I really want to give myself like the first couple of months. I just hired a dietitian to work with me December 1st. So like, just a couple weeks ago. So that's still new. And we're still working out the kinks. I hired a biller for your recommendation. And so that's taken off my plate. So really
Fantastic.
just streamlining processes. I want to take, January and February to just sit in it and not feel
Mhm.
this desire to like push,
Yep.
and really take a step back. And I'm going on vacation for half of January, so that month is gone. But I really like the next focus is figuring out how to set up groups. I run groups at the doctor's office, but I really want to start that kind of education piece of the business. And then also my dietitian, her caseload is almost full. Like she's been there for like a week and a half
Yeah.
and she has like a full caseload. I don't know what happened. It's like, if you build it, they will come, and they
Yep.
came, and it's incredible. And so maybe it's looking for another dietitian. So being open to that. So yeah, so the groups, maybe another dietitian, and then also like more community engagement and just reaching out and doing those sorts of things. So I'm gonna play it safe, and not overextend myself, which I tend to do
Yeah.
because we're
That's
still in
huge.
pandemic mode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the other thing that we didn't necessarily touch on. But one of the
Yeah.
reasons that you could have felt like stuck and that you were in kind of survival mode is because we've all been in survival mode
Yeah.
for 2 years.
Yeah.
And so that weighs on us and our nervous systems, and it's going to lower the bar for your capacity a bit. And
Yes.
understanding that is a huge piece of it.
Yeah. I tell people, my clients, to like take your bar and just like bury it in the ground.
Yeah.
Like just take it. Like just get rid of the bar.
Yeah.
I think that was a huge part of it, like stuck in my house, right? Like with my dogs barking at every little thing,
Yeah.
right? And like being a partner and a mother and all that sort of stuff all at once. And then adding being a student on top of everything. And it was like, oh my gosh.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something else that you said about your goals is something that I really want to just zero in on for a second. You said that you want to take January and February and kind of just sit and take a
Yeah.
step back and not necessarily be like taking action. So you want to be a little bit more passive, and then you want to, starting in maybe March or the spring or so, start to push a little bit more and start to grow and take action.
Yep.
And that ebb and flow is such a beautiful rhythm to welcome into our days and our lives, to understand that there are seasons where you're going to be taking that step back and just kind of being and absorbing and having lower energy, so to speak, and then having seasons where you're going to push and grow and take action, is such a powerful thing to lean into.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody else once and they're like, it's okay to coast.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it is. Oh, well, yeah, exactly. Like mind blown. It's okay to post. It's okay to just be where you are and not, again, always trying to work, do, fix, change. Again, I think that we love to talk about feminist theory and the patriarchy and like what it does to us as women. And just, again, we always harder, better, faster, stronger is really what, we're told that we need to do, especially as business owners. So the notion, again, this permission thing keeps coming up, but like, they're like, nope, you can just coast on along and like, just do your thing. And, that was really helpful. So that's what I'm going to be doing, I think, in the beginning.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's so true. It's the hustle culture. It's when patriarchy meets capitalism, and they just love to make you feel guilty for not constantly improving and constantly growing.
Yes.
When the reality is that it's okay to be complacent. That's not a dirty word. It's okay to stay where you are, to tread water, because we need that time to be more regenerative if we're going to turn it into like a generative space.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like that regeneration. And, there are little things that I'm doing in the background. I'm getting new photos taken, professional photos. I'm going to update my website one more time to like make a page for group. Like I'm doing small things that are leading me in the direction I want to go, but it's not this like how I was when I met you, like, oh, I gotta have to do all this stuff. And how do I figure it out yesterday? Because if I don't do it, I'm not a good boss, or I'm not a good business owner. That I think that's like, that has got to go. So yeah,
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I'm so excited to see it happen and to see it slowly start to manifest. It's super exciting. As we wrap up today, a few last minute things. First, is there anything else that you want to leave dietitians with other than all of the gems you've already had in this episode?
I just want to say, like, it's okay. Like, a friend gave me a gift one time and she said to me, because again, I'm this type of person, like, your exact, the person that you work with, Jess, like, I have to have it together. I have to have it right. Like I have to always seem like I know what I'm doing. And my friend was like, it's okay if you're not okay. Right. It's okay if you don't know. And I was like, oh, I needed to hear that. So I guess I would just say, it's okay to be a hot mess. Like even the people that look like they have their stuff together don't always.
Often.
And that a lot of the things that seem like mountains, because again, this whole, this like getting somebody onboarded and finding somebody, whatever, it always seems like this insurmountable, oh, it's so hard or whatever. But then when hindsight is 2020, I'm on the back side of it. And I'm like, that was actually like, the whole process wasn't that bad. So it's always worse in our heads. And so, I'm just I'm just a proponent of just like going for it and doing it and making mistakes and also seeking help. I'm a huge fan of supervision. I have you as a supervisor. I have an insurance-based business coach. I have I have a therapist, like just really getting help, because there are people who have done this work and know how to do it. And if that's available to you, like I think I have the privilege of having that available to me. But if it is, or using Facebook groups or any sort of support, I would say can really help,
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I appreciate that. And now, how can people find out more about you, learn about what you're doing, connect with you?
Cool. Yeah. So I have to say my social media is kind of lacking, but
that's cool.
You can link to it on the show notes or whatever, but it's at Happy Valley Nutrition. The best way to connect with me is to go through my website, happyvalleynutrition.com. There's a contact me. You can sign up for my newsletter. And if anybody lives in Massachusetts and they're looking to be a HAES anti-diet dietitian and want to work in a group practice, always kind of keeping that door open for people that might want to join our practice. And I'm open to that conversation too. So
beautiful. And I'll include all of that information in the show notes. So if you're driving and multitasking and you didn't get that down, we'll make sure to get it out there for sure. But thank you, Amanda, so much for sharing your vulnerability, for sharing your like honest truth and journey and perspectives today. I think it's really refreshing for everyone to hear.
Well, thanks to you. You had a big part in it.